All right. Sorry. Before we get started on everything, just some quick announcements here. So, if as you probably saw, and I kicked out the announcement for it, the original due date for the game replacement, the sound replacement for the Cube stuff was due today, but we actually want to push that back a little bit so that we can talk a lot more about sound design. So that's what we're going to get into. So for your job for the next week is to start developing some sound design and some sound effects and start implementing them into the game. So we're going to talk about that today. That's what we're going to go over is like where to get the sounds, how to get them, start doing session layout, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, so you have another week to take care of that. And you're going to have to review all your Wwise like 101 cert stuff, but we'll go through all the mechanics of that today. So we'll see how far we get with this all this stuff today because we're gonna continue this next class as well. So yeah, so yeah, I guess like in terms of just there's let's just do this. Let me pull this up. Do project discussion. So here's the Wwise description thing. Basically, this is the project description that was in there, but I updated a couple things in here just a couple minutes ago. So one of them was this SFX list. So if we click on the SFX list and download that, let's see if it'll actually just download it. Cool. And if you want to open this thing up, it's also located in modules. It's just under like the main modules list right here, cube events list.xls. What this is basically all the sound effects in Cube, and this is a super small game, and look how many you already have, like just for this thing right here. So this is basically the event name that's coming in. So these are the events that are calling in. So this doesn't include game syncs. This is just events. So there's still going to be things like the RTPCs and things like material and some of those things that you have to like kind of sleuth out as well. But these are just straight up the events that are happening from Cube. You don't need to do all this stuff. All you need to do is for the default level that we're doing, the normal default Cube level. That's the one that you're going to want to use. If you want to go through another one, that's fine. But basically, this is the one we're going to get graded on. So basically, you have to choose. These are the sound things like emitter teleport. It has the event ID right here. So this is like when you type in emitter teleport, it should be exactly this underscore, and this is the event ID. So actually, I don't know if I have. Let's see. We'll worry about that later. Actually, I'll implement this stuff later. But this is the event ID. So remember, the event ID is determined based off of the file name or the event name. So and it's if you recall, it's case insensitive. So it doesn't matter if you make these up like capital or not. I don't remember if you're allowed to have spaces in there or not. They don't. It's good practice to not use spaces for this stuff. So usually you're going to do an underscore. I don't really like how they have this stuff laid out, but it's the way it is. The way it is. So you just kind of have to stick with this. So those are the effects names right there. You can just download it right here, but it's also in the description right here. So what we're going to be doing is the requirements is all sounds used in the Wwise 101 certification for the default level, which is just like the main one, should be replaced or reprogrammed with your own. Specifically, you are to replace sounds for the intro demo game, but you may go further and do multiplayer sounds as well, or whatever, the single player maps and multiplayer maps as well if you want to do that. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be turning in the sound banks for both Mac and PC. So when you, when you export those things, you're going to zip up both a Mac and a PC, or Mac and Windows version of the sound banks so that everyone else can bring this in. And so we're going to do peer reviewing, so you're going to basically bringing other people's projects into yours, into your Cube, and play it and listen to what they did and how they did it. So, well, not how they did it, but what they did. So, yeah, so that's how it's going to go. So, yeah, September 16th, 9:30 a.m. Cool. So, I would say, is there any? Well, I guess is there any like out of the gates questions on this? Let me see if my chat's pulled up. It doesn't show it. Cool. Sweet. All right. Well, we're gonna go over a lot of this stuff today. Let me get rid of all this stuff. Okay. What we want to talk about today is kind of introduction to sound design, and It's funny that we call it so like for those of you that work in electronic music, sound design means things like working with synthesizers and stuff. But when you hear the industry term sound design, usually what it means, like typically the term is it means sound effects, like designing sounds for post production and use it like sound effects and designing sound for use in sound for picture type situations, and it includes sound for video games. But the electronic world's kind of like taken that term and kind of adopted it as their own. Where sound design now means like synthesizer sound design and that sort of thing, and like snare sound design, but it kind of means the same idea. You're designing sounds, but generally speaking, when you hear the term sound design is supposed to be is intended for visuals. So when we're saying sound design, what we really mean is sound effects. And it could be it could be like Foley. It could be, it's not music, but it's going to be Foley, sound effects, dialogue, that kind of stuff. Well, actually, not usually dialogue. It's going to be just like sound effects type stuff. So we're going to talk about sound design. So if we're given a game like we're working with Cube right here, and you have to start out with creating sounds, and basically we have essentially three different choices for getting sounds into the game that we need. One, we can either go record them. Two, we can use library sounds, or three, like we can synthesize them, so we can create them from scratch. So we're going to talk about recording them next class. I'm going to do some Foley sessions and kind of show you. Has anybody done a Foley session before? For post? Or for anything else? No one? Okay. I guess, Sean, yeah, you have? So, if you've not done a Foley session, it's an interesting kind of situation. Like I'll go over it next class, but basically you need a really, really, really quiet room to do this sort of thing. I've done a few films in my career, and there's been a fair amount of Foley recording, and like Foley for like footsteps and fabrics and motion and that sort of stuff. So we're gonna do footsteps next class for this stuff, and we'll actually get it set up for Wwise for doing the footsteps for all the different things like metal and grass and water and all that sort of stuff that we need for Wwise. But we can also look at synthesizing. Synthesizing is really tough. It depends on what you're doing. Synthesizing, like for instance, maybe like what could be synthesized? Maybe some of the monster sounds, or like the teleporter. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Sci-fi sounds. Sci-fi sounds and fantasy sounds and that sort of thing, they actually get synthesized pretty well. You can actually go so far as to synthesize things like boulders, or like something that's oftentimes really easy to synthesize is things like computer sounds, like beeps and bloops and stuff like like which is funny because I mean in real life, if computers bleeped and blooped as much as they do in video games or in movies, it'd be awful. Like watch any cop movie like CSI or something like that. Every time they're at a terminal or some sort of computer, they're always beeping every time they move. Of course, they're also like 30-point text so that the computer can see it too, so the camera can see it. And also I think it's also hilarious, like when they're like, okay, let's do a face match, of some sort of terrorist face match or something like that, and it cycles through like all the different things. You're like, I don't need to see all that. Why are you showing me like all the different things? I mean, of course they're doing it for the benefit of the audience, but in real life, you'd put it, like if you're trying to do some sort of like database match or something like that, you just put it in, it goes match, it gives you a list. You're like, cool. It wouldn't go, which would be super annoying if you had to deal with that every single time. But a lot of times, like, I don't know, I just was playing like. Hopefully you had a kick-ass long weekend. I just dug into Death Stranding for the first time. It's like it wins all these like awards. Hey, who else? Has anybody else here played Death Stranding yet?
Yeah, the first 8 hours were a slog, but after that the game got really good.
I think I'm in the first 8 hour bit. I think I've actually logged about 9 hours right now, or maybe eight, between 7 and 9. And yeah, it's a bit of a slog, and it's just getting comfortable with the mechanics. It is creepy as hell. Um,
Yeah, and the mechanics just they take about that whole first area to get used to, but when you get to the second area, the game gets a lot better.
cool. Yeah, I'm super into it, But I screwed up a couple things, and I was running around. I missed one of the orders, and so I was like, I wasn't sure what like you're saying, trying to learn the mechanics was a little funky, and I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be doing. So I was just running around the world, like really far around the world, trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing, not knowing I had missed one of the orders way back in the earlier in the game. But I kind of on a roll now, but. It has but it's like it won all these awards for sound design, so that's one of the reasons I got it. Also, just because it looks like an interesting game. It's kind of creepy. They got this baby involved, which just creeps me out. Like I don't know, it's strange. The death stuff is cool, and all the monsters are cool, but the baby thing is weird. But it's cool. It's a neat game. But there's a lot of sci-fi sound effects in there, and when you start to do your own sound design, you start to really hone in on how these sound effects and the mix and the blend and the music and how it all works together in the dialogue. And same thing with film. And like for those of you that have had me for critical listening, it's like one of those things like when you listen to a song, once you start like deconstructing songs and you start listening to them, you start to listen to the production a lot more. And same thing happens in post. Once you start doing some post-production, you start to be able to hear and visibly, I would say audibly tell the separation of components and how they're done. So, so sci-fi sounds like beeps and computer sounds, like that's a real thing. Like, and there's all sorts of like I was actually really paying attention this weekend when playing the game. There's a lot of little chirps and bleeps and bloops and like piston sounds, and when things open up. Or actually, I was rewatching Watchmen last night, and like there's all the hydraulic sounds of like doors opening and that kind of thing, and like engine noises for cars and motorcycles and that sort of stuff is pretty interesting. So some of that stuff you can actually synthesize. That kind of stuff you can synthesize pretty well. But for the most part, what we're going to want to do, at least in terms of what we're working with here, or like actually like magical spells or phasers or like sci-fi type guns, those things don't exist. So there's no way to actually go out and record those, or monster sounds. Like there's no way to actually just go record a dragon sound or a magical spell casting thing or something like that. You have to go actually synthesize and create these things from synthesized elements and also pre-recorded elements. So like I said, those pre-recorded elements you can either come from libraries or they can come from like stuff that you actually go and record. And we'll do the recording stuff next time. So what we're going to focus on today is working on the sound effects and using libraries as our basis. So the first thing we want to do, if we need to set up our libraries. And if you recall at the beginning, like basically I posted an announcement at the beginning of the semester, but right here at the very bottom here, there's a thing called sound effects. It says 330 gigabytes of sound effects libraries. Sound effects libraries are one of those things that you just start collecting and collecting and collecting and collecting. Every time you can find somebody that has a library, you should basically grab those. So let's open this up a new window. Here's I just found this thing from GDC 2018. It's just they gave away 30 gigabytes of sound effects files. I already have these downloaded, and I think I already have them installed on this machine. I'm pretty sure I do. It's on my other computer. I'm working on with Mac today. Usually I work on Windows, but I'm working with Mac today. Because actually I'm gonna put you guys on the other screen here. Because for a reason you'll see here. So I have, under my Merkle Media here, I have sound effects libraries. So I have, actually, let's take a look at what this is. This is my get info. Let's see how big this one is. So this is 600 gigs that I have right now of sound effects libraries right now. So one of my friends who was working in game design, he ended up trading me. We swapped libraries for something. So basically I owned, come on. I owned a lot of the Sound Ideas stuff in here. I actually own these ones. I bought them. I bought these back in the day when you had to buy them on CD. And it's still actually in the other room here. I have these boxes of huge CDs. And then I've got a catalog of all of the sounds that are in it. Actually, I don't get it right now, but it's pretty funny. So back in the day when you wanted to get a sound, you had to go look through this catalog of it looks like a phone book. It's that thick, and it tells you what sound effect is on what CD. And so your Googling was it was literally scanning through this just gigantic database of book. It was a pretty slow and clunky way to work, but it did work. And so then you'd pull out the CD, you'd import that soundtrack from that CD, and it was just very clunky and very slow. These days we have much more efficient ways of doing this. But I have a bunch of different stuff in here. So this is just the Sound Ideas one, and so these I've got everything from like Affordable Audio for Everyone. That's the library of whatever, Lighthearted Mini Magic. And I had to get some. I was doing a game for this one. What was it for? It's for like a game jam, and I was actually doing magical spells, so I needed magical spells, and so I was basically needed some like launch element special effects. So we can go through. I don't know, let's just hear what this is. Did you hear that? Did I share sound? Crap. Okay, I got
very quiet.
Okay, let me stop the share. Let me start it again. There we go. You're hearing bleed from my headphones. That's what you're hearing. So let's stop this. Let's play this again. Heard it that time? Cool. So let's think about that. What is that? How did somebody create this sound? What is that?
Sounds like a noise oscillator, an LFO with an envelope. Like the envelope starts on the LFO, is the tail end, and then the noise oscillator for like the whoosh, and then some sort of synth table for the sci-fi bit.
Yeah, the tail. So it's probably a few different kind of components, and they stack them all together to get the different things like the attack, the body, and the tail, and to get kind of those different sounds in there. So these are all special effects up here. Let's see what that one is. Yeah, I don't really like these ones. These were really cheap. I think I didn't pay very much for these ones right here. Retro Health. It's got that 8-bit sound quality to it. But listen to these. Yeah, so it's got some sort of chirpy kind of thing going on there, and then with some delays. So if you're going to do that delay, is something I'd probably do in Wise instead of actually doing it on the sound itself. Gathering power. Let's see. Gathering digital. So it's fun to go through and just listen to how some of these abstract sounds were built. Abstract loops. Yeah, and so you can just loop that thing over and over so that it has that weird quality, just background, I guess. I don't know what that one would be used for. But I've got mech in here. Mech weapons. Blast herd. Ooh, I like that one. This is one of the reasons I'm on Mac today. I wish there was an easier way to do. There's no preview in Windows unless somebody else knows a way to do something like that without having to open up like VLC or something like that, which is super annoying. I like that Mac has a preview function on it, so it makes things a little bit easier. Ooh, I like that. So heavy wire, shockwave. That was an interesting one. So we've got all these libraries, and I've got tons and tons and tons of these things. So I've collected these over quite a few years. Some of them I bought, some of them I've traded. Technically, the deal is when for you to own the licensing. So the deal is just like with sound, you have to own the licensing rights to be able to use these sounds. So when you buy like sound effect libraries, you own the licensing rights because you purchased it. So technically, when I use one of these, like if I got one of these from a friend that we traded, I don't legally have the rights to use those sound effects as is, but if I morph, twist, mangle those and change them up into a way that they're not the same as the original sound, then I can use them there. And that's kind of what we want to look for, is we want to mangle these sounds so that they're not the original. It's pretty low class to use sound effects just out of the gates as they are. If you're working on, say, like a History Channel TV show, a weekly History Channel TV show, where you're having to crank out stuff a lot, and they use like historical footage of World War II black and white film footage that doesn't actually have any sound to it, and if you watch those shows, a lot of times they have whatever, like Hitler's army marching or like cannons and stuff. Those are obviously not recorded, so they have to use library sounds for those sort of things, and those are quick turn kind of events, and so they'll actually use sound effect libraries for that, and they'll just drop stuff in. And if you once you get the hang, once you start to hear them, you'll start to hear the same ones being used a lot of all over the place. And especially like this one, the Sound Ideas one right here, the General 6000 right here. This is like this General 6000 right here. That's the one I have. This one right here is 40 CDs worth right here, and this is like the original. Like everyone uses this one right here. This gets used. It's like the classic one that everyone uses. But they have a ton more here. In fact, if you want to go look at what they've got, we can go to Sound Ideas. Oops. Sound Ideas is a great place to get sound effects libraries. And they run sales and stuff all the time, so you can actually get pretty good deals. But let's just see what some of them cost right here. So actually, let's do sound effects. Do they have General SFX collection? So General 6000, what's it costing right now? So General 6000, $2,000, or actually this is the one I paid. I paid $1,000 for this thing back in the day. So it's expensive. So this is the General 6000 combos. For $2,000 you get, like, I guess, all this stuff. I don't know what you get in there. But for $2,000 you get all of these right here, which is pretty, I mean, it's expensive, but it's a lot of sound effects right there. They come on hard drives now, I think. Let's see how they come, because they used to come in CD form. Let's see, deliver hard drive. So they'll actually give it to you as a hard drive. And, oh, that's kind of cool. You can choose your, let's see if I did 2448, yeah, 2448 Mac. Cool. So that's, yeah, 160 gigabytes for that one right there. So that's pretty big. So I've got a lot of these ones right here. So I have all these ones that come from Sound Ideas right here. But I have tons and tons and tons and tons of these other ones right here, like 600 gigs worth of them. And the funny thing is, even with 600 gigs, you'll still be like, dude, I can't ever find the one that I need. It's crazy. So I have all these ones right here, but let me show you where we actually have available at school. So first off, what I would do for you is get these ones right here downloaded. I think I have them already incorporated into this system here. I can't remember if I put them in there yet or not. Yeah, there it is. So I did the Sonus.com GDC 2018 Game Audio Bundle. So I've since downloaded all of these, and that's what you have available to you for out of the gates right here. You can just download it as a torrent. It's about 30 gigs. So it's 30 gigs of files and that stuff in there. So if we just kind of cruise through there, we've got like Electric Deluxe, Snow. That's kind of cool. Let's see what that is. Oh, that's Ambi. Let's do this one. Ski lift. That's one of those things you're like, ski lift, when would I ever need that? And then you're working on some film where it's got a ski lift in the background. You're like, dude, how do I make a ski lift? And you have to go find a ski lift. So you can download them there. The other thing you can get is, Sound Dogs here. So Sound Dogs is where you can buy your sound effects a la carte. So it's Sound Ideas. You can buy individual sound effects. So if I needed something like, let's do a gunshot. And so I just do a keyword gunshot. I can listen to it here. Super lo-fi. But sometimes when you need like a helicopter sound, whatever, helicopter. So aircraft, helicopters, aviation, Bell 1, UHV, Iroquois, 1967. Cool. So they give them. So sometimes when you need a helicopter sound, you don't have time to go record a helicopter. So this is where you go and grab a helicopter sound. They actually sound a lot better than that one right there. It gives it to you whatever channels, seconds, bit depth, sample rate, and cost. So if we were to click on that one. You can put it in your cart. So that one's $4.27. Kind of a lot, but when you need a helicopter, you need a helicopter. So you can get stuff. There's other sites you can do these. There's a lot of like download sites where you can pay for sound effects. I think even does Splice do sound effects? I think they do, don't they?
Splice does sound effects, yes. They're not that hot, but you can more or less find what you're looking for. Even like for not music purposes, I've had some good luck there. but it's a
Yes.
lot of digging. It's a lot of digging.
Yeah, yeah.
Their library is not that great. I actually just canceled my subscription because I came to the conclusion I was like, I don't get that much use out of this. I have like 9,000 credits that
That's how
pile
I
up
was too. I was in exactly the same
going
thing.
to not using
I had like
this.
9,000 credits as well, and I was like, dude, I'm not using this, and so I canceled mine. And I had to eat a lot. I had to eat quite a few thousands of sound effects because I was trying to get rid of it right before the next billing cycle, and I was like, ah, crap.
Yeah,
So
that's me too.
yeah, so
I might re-enable just for the sake of this project to like look through and see what's up. But well, I'm gonna probably look through first and then see if I want
dude,
to re-enable it.
don't worry about it. I got you covered. There's some ways to, I'll save you a ton of money. Well, not a ton of money. I'll save you money and a lot of effort. So, I mean, if you want to go through and do it, cool. For those of you that already
I
have
like what you're
Splice.
pitching.
Yeah. So the other option that we have here is so we have 30 gigs right there. So get those 30 gigs downloaded and start building your sound effects library. So for me, I keep it on a separate hard drive. I have a thing right here called Merkle Media, and I just in this one I have a thing like movies. Like I'm using it as kind of a storage for other stuff right here. But I have like sample libraries in here. Those are some of my Splice ones. And then just I have some sessions in here, which I shouldn't have in here. And then I have my sound effects libraries and then some teaching stuff. So all of this, but this one is like by far the biggest part of this whole thing. So so you've got free 30 gigs right there. The other one that we have available to us is at school. We have a huge sound effects library that Scott Burgess has set up for us for that so the school owns a lot of libraries and you actually have full rights to use those and download those. So to get to those, and normally we would do this on campus. So when you're on campus, it's not very difficult to do. But what we need to do if we're off campus is we need to connect to the VPN on campus so that we can basically act like we're on campus so we can connect to the server. Just a quick show of hands. How many people have used VPN before? Just one? Two? Okay. Three? Are you guys using the school VPN or just saying VPNs in general? I'm curious. Okay. Well, look, then let's kind of crank through this thing right here. So, if you're unfamiliar with what VPN is, so it stands for Virtual Private Network. Basically, what happens is just as if when you're on campus, you're using the campus network to get between campus servers, which we don't usually do, but also just to get to the internet. So what happens is basically you're on campus, you go through and it hits a network node and it feeds itself finally up until it gets off of campus and it hits the greater World Wide Web. Well, what we can do is we can actually tunnel in so that we're actually working on the network over from campus. And there's a lot of reasons to use VPNs that basically you can use a VPN. Say you're in China, for instance, and China doesn't allow you to use Google, right? Or actually, yeah, it doesn't. So China does not allow Google. Google and China do not get along. But maybe you want to use, or actually Facebook. Sorry, they also don't allow Facebook, right? Anybody been in China? I can't remember. They don't allow Facebook, I believe, right? So maybe you want to hop on Facebook. So what you can do is you can create a VPN, tunnel all the way over to the United States, and basically it thinks that you're working in the United States. I've done this before when I wanted to be, like I've been in Mexico before, and I wanted to watch Netflix. And you're not allowed to watch Netflix internationally. So, at least with my account. I mean, I'm sure there's a Netflix Mexico, but you have to sign up for that account. So I'm using Netflix US, and so I would want to be in Mexico watching a movie on Netflix. So I had to tunnel into the United States so that I was actually working from, and actually I used this VPN that we're about to use right now, and it worked just fine. So basically it allows us to think that we're on campus. But the cool thing is when you do that, you see the NordVPN commercials on TV, and basically it's the truth. If you want to cover your tracks so that people can't see your network traffic, you can tunnel into another area, and it's an encrypted means of connection between there. So let's take a look at how we do this at CU Denver. So CU Denver VPN. VPN and remote access. So what you're going to do here is basically working off campus here. Installation registration directions are right here. So you can actually install, so you have to install, I did VPN for Mac OS 10 because I'm a Mac today, but I also have this installed on my Windows machine. And so basically you just install a VPN for Mac right here. So it installs this thing, and you basically just run through this entire installation process. I already did it, so I can't do it again. But basically, you just run it, and it's what's sitting on the top right corner right here. And once you get this thing installed, what you want to do is you also need to use the Duo app. Where is that thing? Oh, right here. The Duo Security Guide to Using Global VPN for Duo for Multi-Factor Authentication. So what I have here on my phone is the Duo app, which is right. Where is that? It's green. Oh, there it is, green. So this is my little Duo app, and what I'll do is when I get this thing installed, it says "CU Denver VPN portal." You copy this address into here, and the first time you basically have to type it in. You just have to put this address in right here for the first time. Then once it's there, you don't need to do it ever again. So in Mac it shows up here, Windows it shows down below. So I'm just gonna hit best available, hit connect. It's trying to connect. Oh, well, hopefully we don't get dropped. We still going? Is everybody still there? Cool. So we might, if I get bumped off of, it might jump the connection. If we get bumped off, we'll just reconnect here again. I'll try to see if this works. So what it's going to do, it's going to say, I can call me, send a passcode, or send me a push. So when I hit send me a push, it's going to, sends a push, you can click on it, it says I can allow to accept this, and accepted. So hopefully don't lose connection here.
Hey Jeff, what version of Mac are you running?
I am on Mojave, or sorry, I'm on, no, I'm on Catalina, yeah. So I
have Mojave, and I was actually on the phone with IT yesterday.
Uh-huh.
I'm running into this issue because I'm on Mojave, and they don't, like, apparently it doesn't work if you're running Mojave.
Bummer. Yeah.
And it's stupid because I'm trying to do that so I can use the like Pro Tools from the school, and like I don't know, I kind of like don't want to upgrade to Catalina, but yeah. Situation.
This is like, I mean, I've bitched and moaned about this in other classes. I can't stand Pro Tools. I mean, there's like, as a DAW, it's not the end of the world, but as a company, for crying out loud, get with the program. Every other DAW is just like seamless. Like I upgrade instantly every time a new OS comes out, and I never have any problems with any of my DAWs. Pro Tools is like the biggest pain in the ass with everything. I don't know. They're like I'm a year behind on everything, and it's not like they don't know that something else is coming. All the other developers are able to do it. So I'm not entirely sure. Like, that sucks that you can't use Mojave, because I used to use. I mean, I don't know if they upgraded it so that you can't, because when I was on Mojave, I used to use the VPN. This is back in the day, like, you know, back when I used Mojave, when that was the most modern OS. So I don't know. That sucks that you can't do that.
Yeah, so it was like, I don't know. I guess I can talk to you later about it, so I don't take up class time. But I'm in this like really stupid situation right now with like trying to upgrade and all this stuff. I'll talk to you later about it.
I know. Well, I mean, you're not alone. We in a lot of our staff and faculty meetings, we talk about this a lot, like, because it is it's a constant source of pain, like having to deal with all these like, basically, you know. I don't know, and Avid's the problem with everything. Like, Avid's the root of all problems most of the time. So, because like, yeah, it causes these weird compatibility issues, and so all we can do is bitch about it right now. So it kind of sucks, but that's just the way it is. So, well, yeah, I guess maybe there may be some opportunity to alleviate this. I don't really know the simple solution for that, but yeah, so you're on phone with IT, and they wouldn't let you do they just said they can't do VPN with this.
Yeah, they were like, oh, you're on Mojave, you have to upgrade to Catalina for it to work, because when I open that like thing where like the little Earth thing,
Yeah.
connect, when it shows up to like the login info, the screen is blank.
Weird. And it says like VPN OS 10.11 and later, so that's 10.11 is like forever ago. I mean, that's like Sierra or something like that. So, or High Sierra, I don't even know which one that is. That's like forever ago, so seems like it worked. Have you Googled around just to see for any solutions?
Yeah, like I was literally trying to troubleshoot this like all day yesterday. Silly.
Bummer. That sucks. Okay. But I know it works though, because we have a lot of, like, half of AP1 is doing it, is working this way. So I know that it can work. So Okay, let's recircle on this. So for those of you, if you have problems with this, let's create a little side thread. Actually, let's do this. I'll start a discussion over here, and we'll start a discussion on that specific issue. If you have a solution or if you have a problem, let's post it right here, like a Mojave VPN connection discussion down here, and we'll see if we can come up with some solutions for that.
Yeah, if it's possible that I can use it without upgrading, that would be amazing.
You should be able to, because that's the thing is we're using, like, I know that Scott does it all the time, and I'll talk to Scott and I'll talk to Sam McGuire's been doing it a bunch too. So I know, and actually Vince is doing it right now too. So it should work.
I talked to Scott and he sent me to IT. He's like, yeah, we can't even. He said basically that he can't help with any VPN issues.
Well, okay. I will talk to Scott about it because I know that he's done it, but yes, there's so many different variable, weird little cases that it can cause problems. So I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can dig up on that, because yeah, that's a real problem. So I'm on right now. I'm connected on. It thinks I'm actually on campus. So right now I have access to all the servers. So in this modules thing right here, in our just normal, not this one, modules. I have this thing down below here. At the very bottom, it says Sound Effects Library Server Info. So what we want to be able to do is we want to get to the sound effects libraries on campus. And so Scott has set up a server for these sound effects. So now it thinks, like essentially I'm sitting in my office right now. I'm going to go to, and this is going to work for Mac only right now. I spent like an hour on this last night and I could not get it to work on Windows. And so I have to spend some more time on this. I'll come up with instructions for this on Windows pretty soon here. The simplest solution for this is if you happen to be on campus, just go to one of the computer labs, or if you're on any of the studio computers, you can do this from any place on campus. It's super easy. But when we're off campus, you have to use the VPN, and you have to use, right now I have to use Mac. I'm trying to figure out how to do this with Windows, which is stupid because it's a Samba share, which is a Windows protocol, so it should work. But I'm having some issues with it. But this is the server address right here. So what I'm going to do is on a Mac, with my Finder selected, I say go connect to server, and I already have it copied in right here. It's just 10.2.24.20.6. So I hit connect, and it says, what do you want to do? Registered user. And so I'm going to register. The registered user is the username is sound effects, and the password is crash boom. I'll say connect. And we have two things. We have sound library, and this is sound effects. We want to use sound library here. So it says use sound effects volume to connect to the library. So I'm going to say OK. Cool. And so, go away. This is all the sound effects that we have available to us for on campus right here. So this one's 22 gigs. This one's 11 gigs, 15 gigs, 2 gigs, 5 gigs, 6, 7, 21. This one's 30 gigs. So actually in Sound Ideas right here, we have the Sound Ideas. Let's see what it's got in there. A ton of stuff here. So you have essentially probably, yeah, like about 100 more gigs available to you. So you have, at this point, you have 130 gigs of sound effects files available to you. That's a lot. So what you can do here is go through and just search through these if you need something, like eating chips. Let's listen to that. Gross. But when you need somebody doing it. Oh, children playing Party Crowd. What's interesting on this one, if you like, so this is what's called Walla. If you've never heard that term before, Walla is basically background people talking, but there's a specific way they're talking. If you listen very closely, you could never understand what they're saying. So they're saying gibberish. And because you don't want them to actually be able to hear what they're saying, you don't want them to hear like, oh, I had to pick up the kids after school, or do you like that? How's your shrimp cocktail? You don't want that to actually pop out because you don't know what the actual setting is going to be in. So it's called Walla. And these people have the ability to speaking gibberish and nonsense. So listen to this really closely. Pretty weird, huh? Like you can never hear what they're saying, which is crazy important because when you have dialogue in a scene in post production, you don't ever want to. Yeah, speaking Sims, you never want them to actually be able to be understood because you want to hear the main character, whatever the dialogue happening in scene be the thing in front. So there's a ton of sounds in here. So you could just go through and audition and grab the sounds that you need and pull those over into your sound. But what I would do personally, if I were you, is I would spend the time and download everything in here. Just download this. I mean, don't grab all of them at once and drag them. That's too big. Grab them, piecemeal these things at a time because otherwise it's going to take like days and days and days to download. But if you just grab bits of these at a time and bring them over, so like that's 22 gigs, you could actually just go in here and grab one of these folders at a time if you wanted to, or if you think you have the speed for it, you can grab all BB Sound Effects library and drag them all in at the same time. But buy yourself an external hard drive. Actually, buy yourself two because you always want to have a backup because if your sound effects drive crashes and you don't have a backup, you're hosed. And it's nice to have it set up. I do mine as exFAT, so I can bring it hop between computers, so I can be on Mac or PC. That's how I roll because I work on both platforms. But this is a great thing to get, man. This is huge. So you have a lot of sound effects at your disposal with this right here. The fastest way to do this is if you happen to be on campus, is just do it from on campus. It's so much faster that you can just drag them over and it'll go really quick. But over here you have to go over the web and it's a lot slower. But you can do it. And like I'm sorry, like right now if you're on Windows, I can't. I'm going to work on a solution for figuring out how to connect to this with Windows. If you want to try this out, like go for it and see if you can figure out how to connect the Windows. I tried for like an hour last night, and if you come up with a solution, let me know. I'll come up with another discussion on this one, but let me know if you can get this thing to work here.
Did you try mapping the network drive? You need a file path though, I think.
So what I tried doing is using SMB, so that's Samba server. So I tried to do with the // with the backslashes. I tried doing this / sound effects. I couldn't get it to work. I could not try with. Because I feel like it should be like 10.24.20.6 / sound effects, but I can't figure out the formatting for a space because I think you have to do a / thing to get this so it sees it as one sound effects. So, but if you want to try it, Sean, I used to be really good at Windows networking back in the day because that was my life for a while, but I've since moved over to Mac for most of my daily chores, and I still use Windows for game stuff, but my Windows networking chops have gone down quite a bit. So I've tried mapping it, but if you want to give it a shot, if somebody want to see if they can come up with a solution, I would love it. But I could not ever get it to work.
We just need the folder path, I think.
Yeah, it's like all the way. So it's on a Mac, so I don't know if it's just. Well, okay, I'll ask Scott, see if he can give me the absolute folder path where that is, and maybe we can find it from there because that would be sweet. Cool. I'll see if I can do it. Okay. Cool. So what we're going to look at now, though. Okay. So now the question is, okay, we want to start implementing these into our game. How do we actually do these things? What I want to look at for today. So that gets us kind of into the meat of what we want to talk about today. If we want to do this with our video game, our cube, we have a bunch of different. Well, actually, okay. We're going to look at gun sound design for today, just as a quick example for how to set up a session for this. Now you can use any DAW that you want to do this with, but I use Nuendo. Reaper is huge, and we're going to talk about Reaper in greater detail coming up. But I'm going to give you a primer on Reaper today. I think I asked before: is anybody who's used Reaper before? Nobody? All right. So Reaper there's some pretty awesome reasons for using Reaper, but I'm going to use Nuendo today because I'm so much faster with it. So let's get into Nuendo 10.3, and I'll show you. There's also a couple other reasons that make Nuendo the choice for this sort of stuff. When you're on campus, it has makes me do that twice for whatever reason. It's super not numbers. So when you're working with all these sound effects, one of the biggest challenging parts of working with sound effects is digging through these things. So if I want to find, say, gun sounds, for instance, so we're going to be doing some gunshot sounds today. If I want to look through all these guns, okay, so they have a raw guns here. That's cool. Actually, that might be really useful for what we're going to be doing today. So I want to go through and find these. But there's actually, like, I mean, in Sound Ideas, there's in Series 7000, there's probably some, oh, those are all ambients. There's probably some guns in General 6000s. It's probably under military sometimes, military. And so now we have a bunch of gun sounds in here. So it's hard to find them, and so searching through all these things is a real pain in the ass. So there's essentially two different apps out there for managing these things. One's called Basshead, which I think is such a weird name. So basically, we have this on campus, and it works on all I think we have it installed on all the machines, like the studio machines, not in the computer lab, but basically it allows you to find sound effects really quick. The other one is SoundMiner. So SoundMiner is another one that it's a database for sound effects. So you attach it to these folders, and it keeps track of all of your sound effects in there. So if you want to do some searching, you can find your sound effects very quickly instead of having to go through and manually listen to stuff and just go through your libraries, because it's a pain in the ass to go through this thing. But both these, I don't know, what's this cost? It's expensive. It's not that. Let's see, shop. Let's see, new purchases. SoundMiner V5. What it costs. So yeah, it's about $1,000 for this thing. Blech. I hate it. I don't know what Basshead costs. Store. Let's see what Basshead costs. Basshead perpetual license between 120 and $500. So it's probably $500 for the latest version of it. On sale, $500. So those are by far the biggest ones that people use right now. We have Basshead on campus, and it kind of integrates well with Pro Tools in a way. I've not done this, so I don't really understand how it works. But basically, you can use both SoundMiner and Basshead kind of integrate with Pro Tools. So basically, Pro Tools works here. You use SoundMiner, and it drops them into Pro Tools somehow. I'm not entirely sure how it works. But one of the reasons I like Nuendo is because I'm going to create an empty. Let's create new. We'll create a new, I'll just produce on desktop for now for today. New folder, we'll call this, actually let's call it Cube Sound Design. Open. So now I have a new Windows session right here. Let's turn off this. And one of the things that I love about Steinberg products is this thing called the Media Bay. So I hit F5, and it has SoundMiner and Basshead built into it. So it has a database management system built into the system right here. Next, I can say what libraries I want to choose. So it's searching sound effects libraries right here. So it's searching inside of all these folders right here, as well as some of the, I can define what folders I want it to be searching for over here. So this one is basically starting up here. It's got, you know, tens and tens of thousands of sound effects right here. So if I want to like search for something, like say let's just search for Magic. Let's just see what comes up with Magic. So here's and what it can search for, it's pretty neat because it can search for, in here it can do Magical Zap, but it also has this BWF description right here. So it can search within the metadata. When we're looking at our sound effects right here, where'd that library, where'd that go? Come on. Where is that folder? I guess let's just create a new one. So when I'm looking at in this Miracle Media sound effects libraries right here, if I wanted to do a search, say for Magic right here, I can say search sound effects libraries. And it's going to find all the things that have Magic in the key, in the name, in the file name. And that's great. So that's actually one useful way you can kind of start searching for Magic in looking for it in terms of the file name. The problem is each one of these files has actually metadata. So metadata is data about the data. You know, remember ID3 tags for MP3s, where it contains like the musician or whatever, the artist, the album, and the song. Those are the metadata that's involved with her. So we have this thing right here, the BWF description. This is all the metadata that's available that it includes in track. Actually, there's a lot more. This is all we're seeing right here. So we can search for right now, because right now here is Animal, Dragonfly, Magic, Dragon, Sci-Fi, Monster. So that's the actual BWF description. This is the file name, .47. So if I were to, so that's not going to show up in this search over here, which is a real problem. So the nice thing about this system right here is it allows me to search all the different categories inside of here. There's also a content summary. So I've never used that one before, but some files may have some content summary in here. So I can actually go through and listen to it. Yeah, that was lame. Are you hearing that? Okay. Let me think about the routing on this one.
It's very, very light.
Yeah, it's coming. You probably hear them bleed through my headphones or something. Bummer. That's okay. You can see what I'm doing right here. But this allows me to go through and just like, why is magic showing up in this one right here? Ooh, that sounds cool. So what I can do is, in this case, I want to search for some gun sounds. So I'm going to just search for. Let's start with just gun. And you have to, it's like, you like, just like when you work searching on the web, you have to get good with your keyword searches. So you want to start getting good with things like if I want to search for gun, if I'm working, say, like, let's talk like we're using the main gun in Cube. So what kind of gun is that? Well, it's not a real gun, so you can't really search up by type, but it is a rifle. So, but pistol guns should probably sound about the same. And actually, what we want to think about here is that gun sounds are different. And they sound very different, but essentially guns are about the same. The same thing happens. You have a charge, a gas expanding inside of the chamber, and it blows and propels the bullet out of the barrel. So things that are going to change the sound of the sound of it are going to be things like the barrel, the caliber, the barrel length, the distance of the microphone. All these different things are going to give a very different quality of sound. So it is almost never going to be exactly the sound you want out of the gates. You should, like I was saying before, you should almost never just use the sound of a gun by itself. So if we listen to some of these, let's just listen to, let's just do rifle instead. Let's just listen to a few of these. Oh, you can't hear them. Damn it. I wonder how I can route that so you can hear it. Man, that's gonna be confusing. I'll think about this for a second. Okay. Just like it. So these are all handling noises. These are all the cocking and loading and safety and all these different sounds that are going on right now. There we go. Let's see if I can send this one to. So I like this one, for instance, just so I'm going to be able to hear it. So I'm going to say insert into project at origin. I'm going to change the sample rate from whoa, this one's recorded at 192. So I'm going to bring this one down to 48K. I'm going to split the channels left and right if it's a stereo one, and I'm going to copy the project folder. So now if I close this one out, it's over here. I'm going to work in mono for most gun sounds. The name of the game is to try and make our stuff smaller and smaller and smaller. So we want to work in mono right here. We don't need to be working with two different sounds here. So let's see if you can hear this one. You hearing that at all? Damn. I'm going to see if I can get this to, let's see, to come out of my DAW. So let's see if I'm pressing play. Okay, so what's going to happen here is I'm going to send my audio from my computer to the mixer. Okay, so you're gonna be able to hear it now. But if you actually say something in the microphone, it's gonna loop back. You're gonna get a weird delay. But you should be able to hear this now. Do a mixer here. You hear it then? Damn. Let's try this. I'm going to stop sharing for a second here and see if I can get this to turn on original sound. Yeah, that should work. Still nothing? Lame. Okay. Try doing this. Now? No? How can I get that to go? 828, yes, that's... That's driving me crazy. I think why that routing is not allowing it to do it. That routing is weird to me. It should be going... Let me see. What I can do... Alright, I'm just gonna... Let's do this. Got a workaround. Actually, it's a pretty good workaround, but... What I want you to do is on my master fader here, I'm going to do, we'll use the tools. Let's do, what is that going to be? Listen to... Let's do whatever, good enough. Let's bump this up to 320. 0.5 seconds. Let's go to 0.3. Copy link. Okay. Here, open up this window. Like, it's in the chat. Open up that link for me. Cool. So I've got 3 of you connected right now. So what this does is this is going to allow the audio to route through the browser instead. So let's make sure that this is working. You hearing it now? Cool. Let everybody get logged in. And we have 7 of you right now. How many of you? 1, 2, 3. There's more people definitely in the thing here. But, okay, so now you'll be able to hear the high quality sound come from there. There might be a little lag. I've got a 0.3 second lag of sound going there. But this is that, what? I think it was like an AK-47 or something like that. So that is like not a very good sound for laying into the game, right? And if you... recording gun sounds is crazy complicated. Because, I mean, if you've ever been around... a real gun, I mean, they are crazy loud, right? So you have to have like every single pad, every single thing on your mics and everything turned all the way up, like pad wise, so that it's massively suppressed. So the problem is you get this, like, it sounds like what you're hearing right here. So it's just this little pop. It doesn't sound like what you imagine is in terms of what a gun sounds like. Even though that's the real recording of a gun, it doesn't. That's not what we want to hear in terms of the sound effects, how it lays into the film or the game. So when you think about how we're designing our sound palette, we have to think about how we want this thing to sound. Do we want it to sound like an actual gun? Like, do we want it to be real? And if you listen to stuff like, I don't know, if you do like some of the Rainbow Six stuff, those guns actually sound really badass. They sound like, I don't know, probably not as like the real guns, but they have that quality. You know, if you're looking with a machine gun or a pistol, they have the qualities that are associated with those weapons. But if we want it to be like these sci-fi kind of games, we want it to be hyper real. So I guess that's what we have to ask. Do you want it to be real? Do you want it to be hyper real? Do you want it to be ridiculously real? Things like, so like punches. Think about punches. So punches in real life do not sound like punches they do in movie. And so there's all these different Foley punch sounds that we can go with. So actually, let me see if this one works. Let's see if you can hear this. Let's do a punch. Come on. It's good. Can you hear that? Okay, so you're not able to hear my preview thing. No. Body... There's like these kind of comical punch sounds right there. But if you remember like the Indiana Jones series, they have the most fantastic sounding punch. It's got this whole like sweep, the swoosh, the punch, and then the tail. And so what we have to do is we have to deconstruct the sound into its components, and we start to develop it into a sound that we think is going to be fit the song, or fit the scene. So part of what we're going to do here, and the challenge with this, is that we want to try to create a sound palette that matches both the feet and the hua of the guy jumping and the gun sounds. They all have the same quality of sound. And so that's where a lot of the sound design challenge is going to come from, because what we don't want to do is sound like if we pull footsteps from concrete over here and we pull footsteps from water over here, we pull footsteps from grass over here. One of them was done in stilettos, one of them was done in Oxfords, and one of them was done in combat boots. It's going to sound very weird when you transition from different terrains. So what we're trying to do is create something that sounds cohesive, that sounds together. So we have to design our sounds. Very, very, very rarely are you going to find a sound effect that's just out of the gate what you want. And even if it does, it's not going to fit in the palette with the rest of the game. So generally, you're going to have to design all of your sounds not from scratch, but from components. And that's going to give us a lot more control. And especially considering the way we work in Wwise, that's going to give us a lot more control. So in this case right here, if we're just listening to this one, oops, let's turn off my loop. That doesn't really sound like we want it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my session here, and I'm going to use the Nuendo right here just because we're running out of time. I'm going to create, I'm going to get rid of these for just a minute. Let's move these selected tracks. Yes, that's fine. I'm going to add 3 audio tracks right here. So let's just add 3 mono audio tracks for right now. And when we talk about guns, actually, I should probably have 4. We're going to call this one Mech. Actually, that's Mech. Call this one Punch 1. Punch 2. And what did I want to say? And then we want to do Body. So let's do one more track. Let's call this one 1. We'll call this one Body. And this is going to represent the 4 components. When we start working in sound design, we do what's called procedural design. You have to break a sound, if it's a real sound, like a gun, like we're working on right here, into its procedural components. What makes the sound of a gun? So we think about that. The mechanical is like the sound of the parts moving, all the different like mechanical metal on metal contact parts that are going to be happening when a gun is fired. It's subtle, but in real life, I mean, it's completely drowned out by the transient of the actual burst of the sound, the expansion. Because it's so dynamic, you don't actually in real life hear any of that. I think it's funny, like in whatever cop or detective shows, when people are like having conversations while they're shooting guns. You're like, dude, it doesn't work like that. Guns are so freaking loud that everything else is completely drowned out. But yet they can sit there shooting guns while they're chatting, and it's like, it's crazy. So what we want to do is we want to use mechanicals, the mechanical sounds. But so what we're going to do is we're gonna make the real life gun sound much quieter. We're going to enhance the mechanical sound of this. The punch is going to be the actual explosion, the transient at the beginning of the sound, and then the body is going to be kind of the tail, the body, the oomph. So this is going to be the transient, and we're going to do 2 different transients right here, and then this is going to be the body. And if you're working on a film, you'd actually do something like the tail. So I would do a tail down here. But I'm not going to include a tail on a video game because we want the reverb of the space. So in other words, if you're going to be inside, if you're shooting inside versus say outside on if you're doing a wide shot versus a close-up shot, you're going to use the tail to give you an indication of where you are in in regards to where the sound is, but we're using Wwise to tell us that. So we're using reverb and like the RTPCs in Wwise to tell us to give us the tail, using reverb as an example for that. So the reverb is going to come from this, or the ricochets or the delays or that sort of stuff come from Wwise. We're going to develop there. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to create a folder track, and so I'm going to create a folder track here, and we'll call this. Yeah, we'll call this we'll call this one rifle. And I'm going to put all 3 of these in here. So now this is my rifle sound effects thing here. So this is how I would probably set this thing up. I would set up a rifle. If I have a pistol, I have a grenade, I have a rocket launcher, I would come up with a different sound, like a set of sounds for each one of these. So I have mechanical sounds here. So I'm going to go back to my library sound here, and I'm going to do like let's just do gun again, and I'm gonna look for like some of these handling sounds, just like actually, and you could use anything. Like sometimes a stapler handling noise. Let's gun handling. So this is a Desert Eagle sound effects. So these are like clip drops. These are like clip handling noises right here, but you can use any of these sounds right here, like button clicks. Let's do clip inserted. Where's the actually cock? Here we go. Yeah, we can use some of this. We can start with some of the sound right here. I'll just add this in, insert it to track, add current margin, bit depth, convert it to 24. Okay. So what that did is I just dropped it in right here as mechanical sound, and that works for me. We'll start. Like, so you can hear it. So you can hear it's just a cocking sound right there, but we're going to use that as a handling sound right here. So if you can find some more handling sounds in there, let's just do a gunshot. Let's do 5. Let's do. What's cool is that once you start developing these, you can start adding star ratings to these things, and you can add like your level. So you can filter by star rating. So if like you have some that are really good and some that are bad. Let's see if I can find some. I'm just grabbing. Yeah, they're terrible. I think I heard. It's just, I mean, you can go through and just start. These are terrible. Let me see if I can find different libraries here. Okay, that one would probably work. Channels. Okay, just so you can hear it. Get over here. This is what I just imported. So it's split it up into 2 of these, so I'm going to just use them as 2 separate takes. Probably a little bit long, but I'll put that one in the body section. I want something that's a little more transient for the beginning. Ooh, these are good. Grab this one too. I like that one. So you can hear it. This is what I just grabbed. I'm gonna get rid of these 2 for now. So these are 2 different takes for the body. I'm trying to find something with a little more transient. Ooh, those are terrible. Let's try rifle. You could also use, let's just try pistol. No. Try fire. Ooh. What was that one? I missed it. That's really good. grab this one right here. This is that cocking sound I was just using. It's pretty cool, the mechanical. Or it's not cocking, it's dry fire. We could use that as the mechanical sound of the gun. It's getting late. I'm gonna have to just find something and just throw it in there because I don't have time for this. Let's find trying to find just something. Gunshot, simulated jam, gunfire. Ooh, that one's a good one. I like that. Let's do that. Okay, I'm just gonna keep it really simple for today. I don't have time for a ton more, but I would have more punch in here. So if you want to hear that one I just downloaded, that one's pretty cool. So now we gotta start shaping our sound. So I'm going to pull these back here, and I'm going to use this. I would normally use 2 different punches, but I don't have time for right now. So what I'm going to do is go through and start shaping this sound out. So we'll move this here. I'm going to change my preferences so I can actually see these things a little bit better. Let's see, audio, show, interplay audio waveforms. Cool. Oh, wait. Not interplay that, but let's do... There it is. Okay, it's one of the things that Nuendo can do, which is really cool. It does transients, and it basically does background color modulation. So as something gets louder, it gets darker. The background does, and it makes it really easy to like line up events with one another, which I think is really useful. So let's zoom in on this. We want that to come a little bit later, and let's just start listening to this thing. Take the tail off of this thing. Start mixing this thing down. Let's pull down the body a little bit. P. What I'm going to do on this one right here is I'm going to do some EQ on this. I'm going to pull off the on this one right here. I'm going to high pass this one a little bit. So let's do, where's my EQ? Let's shelf this one down. Solo this for a minute. Actually, I can solo it here. I'm going to use this one for the body of it. Ah, crap. Okay. So I don't have time, like, I should save this one as... So I'm going to save this session. It's called Weapons. So I would go through and create an entire session for just the weapons. And then I would go through and create an entire session for just the sound, like Foley for sound effects, do another one for dialogue, do another one. So basically you're going to create a bunch of different sessions for different aspects of the game. If it's a super small game, you could probably do a lot of it in one single session right there. But I'm just going to show just how I set this thing up. So basically at this point, I've got these folder tracks, and a lot of other DAWs can do this sort of thing. It's kind of like buses, but now I have so if I want to start colorizing these things, so maybe my gunshots are going to be orange, and I start creating and I create a marker track. I'm going to have to call it for here right now, but basically what I want you to do for next class is I want you to try and start getting start collecting sound effects and start creating a sound effects library and start combing through those and start grabbing your gunshots. So what I would do is essentially what's called a spotting session. Go through, play the cube game, figure out all the sounds that you're going to need to replace in Cube, and then start looking through these sound effects libraries and see if you can start building out sessions to create these sound effects. So what we're going to do next class is I'm going to come back, we're going to do a little bit on the recording and Foley, but I might spend another class talking about session setup, because there's a lot on here on how to set your sessions, how to export your sounds so they're organized, and do file naming and some of that kind of stuff, which I think is really important. But for now, what I want you to do is just start collecting sound effects libraries, start combing through them, listening to them, and start trying to create and synthesize some of the effects that you're going to need for your game. What I don't want you to do is just use the sound raw from the sound effects. It just doesn't work very well. And so, yeah. So I guess we'll have to leave it right there. But are there any questions? What I'm looking for right there? Cool. All right. So I'm around. If you have any questions, I'm going to try and get this Windows thing figured out for the VPN. But in the meantime, download those 30 gigabytes. That 30 gigabytes is a great place to start. It's got a bunch of different stuff in there. Just start importing those. If you've never worked with sound effects before, because you've worked mostly in music, this is a great way to start listening and start experimenting with your how you can work with audio in your DAW. Like things like Ableton are okay. There's you'll see there's some problems with Ableton for this sort of thing later, but for now that's fine. If you want to use Ableton, that's great. Reaper is another awesome one, but we'll talk about Reaper later. So yeah, rock and roll. I will catch you guys on the flip side. See you guys later.
Yeah, stoked to download that.
Hey Jeff, I have a question for you real quick.
Yeah, what's up?
It's unrelated to the class, but I was wondering if you've ever used an external SSD to boot Mac.
No, I've not. I've seen people do it on campus before, so they can use the studio computers without using their own OS on there. I've seen people do it, but I've never. I don't know how well it worked. I think they did it, but, so basically you just plug in the SSD, hold down Option while you boot the drive, and it'll boot it up. Are you talking about for Windows or for Mac?
For Mac, yeah. So this is relating to what we were talking about earlier, because I was trying to get Catalina on an SSD. That way I can keep Mojave and run Catalina on the external.
Anybody else tried that before? It's worth a shot.
My friend did it because back in the day, I think when I was a freshman, they didn't really have Ableton. It was back when they didn't have Ableton on the studio computers, but he had Ableton and a whole Mac OS booted on an external hard drive, and so when he'd roll into the studio, he'd just boot from that hard drive and be able to run Ableton.
But he was able to run a DAW from the SSD?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, it'd be worth a shot, to get that working. For this class, though, what you would do is, to make your life easier for what we're trying to do in here, is I would use Reaper. Dude, Reaper is the shit for so many reasons, and I'm going to do a couple classes on Reaper coming up. And if you're working in video games, Reaper is where it's at.
I know for sure.
I use Nuendo.
This is actually for post-production because I need Pro Tools for that class, and I don't even really use Pro Tools, but I'm doing all of this literally just so I can do that, and it's just a total nightmare because I have the SSD. I just bought these two really badass 2 terabyte SSDs for this, and now when I got